Hi, I'm Lillian. Welcome back to my channel, Ink and Pages. Today I'm going to be doing the end of the year book tag. This tag is designed to help you look forwards over the next few months and to wrap up all the reading you wanted to get done this year. And question one is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? I have three answers for this question. First is Broken Stars. This is an anthology of translated Chinese science fiction stories, all translated and edited by Ken Liu. I read the first story in here ages ago in April or May, I think, and it was fine. It was fine, but it wasn't anything special, and so I think I just didn't really feel interested in continuing to read the stories because that first one was just okay. If it had been amazing, if I'd really loved it, obviously I then would have wanted to immediately keep reading, and I do still think that I will enjoy this collection overall. I really like science fiction and I've grown to really enjoy short story collections, so there's not much that could go wrong with this, but still I just haven't been able to bring myself to pick it up and finish it. But I would still really like to sometime in the next few months. Next is actually another book of short stories, which unfortunately I'm not so convinced I'm going to enjoy this one. It is Storyland by Amy Jeffs with the subtitle A New Mythology of Britain, which I actually disagree with. So I've read that much. Can you see my little bookmark? How much is that? 50 pages? The paper in here is so thick that even though that looks like it could be 100 pages in another book, that is literally about 50 pages. So that's the first 3 or 4 short stories in here I read, and I'm not loving it. I'm finding it increasingly mediocre, which is a shame because this book is gorgeous and it was expensive. It was £25 for this thing. And I bought it because I like mythology and folklore, and I was like, oh yay, fun, a new collection of stories. And I thought this would maybe have stories in that I wasn't super familiar with, because I mean, to be honest, when we talk about mythology and folklore, it's 90% Roman and Greek mythology, and then there's a little bit of other stuff. And I was like, I actually really enjoy reading about British mythology and folklore, so I was really excited by this. But all of the stories, I don't know, there was just something missing. And to be fair, the first 2 or first 3 were actually stories I'd never heard of before, which was kind of cool and kind of exciting, but I don't know, I still didn't really click with them. And then after each story, there's a little piece of writing the author's done about the background of the story, or maybe about her process of writing it, or that kind of thing. And then I read, I think, the 4th story in here, and then I read the little piece of writing she did after it, and she was like, oh yeah, I just made this one up. And I hated that. I was like, you can't be like, oh, it's about the mythology of Britain, and then just make shit up. I don't care if you thought you were filling a gap in the mythology, retell a story. Don't make new ones up and then try and pass them off as being thousands of years old, which I guess she didn't really try and do, because she was immediately like, yeah, I made this one up. But still, I didn't like that. I did not like that. So I found this one quite disappointing so far. But again, it's beautiful. There's a strong black and gold kind of vibe going on here. Still, I would like to finish this. I would like to have read it, even if I don't think I'll necessarily enjoy the reading of it. But yes, I've started it. I would like to finish it. I would like to finish it before the end of this year. And finally, to my great shame, I have A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. I've been saying since the beginning of this year that I wanted to finally finish the series. This is the last book in the trilogy. I have not read it. I still have not technically read it, but I started it and I got 150 pages in, and then I stopped because I wasn't feeling it. I don't know exactly what it was. What I think my problem with this book was, it has a very different kind of pace from books 1 and 2. So books 1 and 2, they are, I would say, very slow builds. They start off by really laying the groundwork, introducing all the characters, setting up lots of little things, and then slowly but surely build into this incredibly exciting, incredibly like high stakes and fast paced ending and climax and final battle and all this kind of stuff. But the problem with book 3 is that it's following directly on from a very exciting and very big, I would say, cliffhanger at the end of book 2. So this doesn't start off slow and really engage you before winding up to the action. It immediately starts with action, and I think that's what my problem with it was. Not to say that I don't enjoy fast-paced, exciting books that are fast-paced and exciting from page 1, but I think maybe with this series, I don't know, I was so used to there being like a slow build-up and getting to spend time with the characters before shit goes down, that when shit immediately started to go down, like on page 0, because it started in the previous book, I don't know, I wasn't used to it, I wasn't feeling it, and now it's been months, and I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should just start from where I got to. Look, I got far into it. What page is that? 172 pages I read of this. I don't know whether to just start from page 173 and just try and plow through, or if I should reread from the beginning. I feel like I should reread from the beginning, but I don't know just exactly quite what's going on here and like what's going on in my head. I'm hoping that after leaving it several months, whatever my problem was with it will have vanished, and next time I get into it and fully commit to reading it, I'll love it as much as books 1 and 2. But I'm genuinely really scared at this point that I'm gonna fall at the final hurdle, and for some reason I really won't like the final book in what I thought was gonna be one of my favorite series of all times. So question 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to help transition you into the end of the year? The answer is no, not really. I do occasionally, but I don't normally associate books very heavily or very closely with seasons, as in I don't feel like bound or restricted to read a book only at a specific time of year. But if I had to bet, I would say the next book I'll read is probably either Six of Crows, which would be a reread, or Dark Matter, which I've had for like 5 years and haven't read yet. Although I'm now realizing those both like could count as quite autumnal books, despite everything I just said. So question 3 is there a new release you are still waiting for? I am not very good at keeping up with new releases. There's just too many of them. I can't do it. I'll wait for a few years and then I'll read the ones I'm interested in. But there is a book coming out in December called A Million to One, which is meant to be a heist that takes place on the Titanic. Does that not sound like the coolest thing you've ever heard? It is by Adiba Jagadar, and yeah, I think it's out in December. And I know it can't possibly be as good as how I've built it up in my head to be, but I'm still really hoping I'll enjoy it. Next question is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? So I guess I could say like the 3 again I answered for question 1, so A Conjuring of Light, Broken Stars, and Storyland, but I won't. I've picked 3 more. First of all is Arcadia by Ian Pearce, because I have owned this for like 5, 6, 7 years at this point. My sister got this for me for my birthday, I think in maybe 2015. Obviously still haven't read it, but this is just such like a mainstay of my TBR shelf now that I just don't know if I'm ever going to actually read it. I want to, and one day I will. Maybe this is the year, probably not, but maybe. Next I have On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, which I actually only got this year, so it's not one I've owned for ages, but I don't know, I just view this as kind of like a challenge for me to read. I don't know why I have that assumption. It's not that short, but for some reason it feels quite intimidating. I think maybe because I've heard so many other people talk about how like beautiful and powerful and emotional and important this is, and I want to be a part of that and to experience that too, but obviously I'm worried I won't feel that way. But I mean, I'll never know if I don't read it. So long story short, in an ideal world I would read this before the end of this year. Next, I have Crooked Kingdom by Lee Bardugo. I would like to reread Six of Crows before I come on to this one, and ideally I would do both of those things before the next series of Shadow and Bone comes out on Netflix. But yeah, I think I'm really gonna love this. I gave Six of Crows 5 stars. It was my favorite book of last year, and yeah, I'm really excited to read this one. Question 5 is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite of the year? To be honest, all of the books I own and have on my TBR shelf, like they have the potential to become a favorite of all time because I've bought them because I think I'll enjoy them. So I won't be that surprised if I end up enjoying them, you know? Actually, this year I haven't read a single book I've given 5 stars to. I've read a couple of 4.5s and then quite a few 4s, but like nothing I would consider has automatically qualified to favorite book of all time status. And the final question is, have you already started making reading plans for next year? Absolutely not. I don't even know what I'm going to read next week, let alone in 3 months. I have previously set myself kind of like series challenges for a year to like finish a particular series at last. So I did that with the Throne of Glass books, and I was meant to finish them last year, but I finished Kingdom of Ash in January this year. So like not quite under the deadline, but still fine. And then obviously this year I was meant to be rereading and finishing the Shades of Magic series by V.E. Schwab, but I've had all my struggles getting to A Conjuring of Light, so who even knows if I'll succeed in that. But I genuinely have no ideas for if I even want to set myself a similar kind of challenge for next year, or if I do, like what series I would do it for. Throne of Glass and the Shades of Magic was just such like big series in my head. They were like booktube staples and they had been for years, and I was actually kind of annoyed that I hadn't finished them yet. But looking at my TBR shelf, I don't feel that way about any of the other books or series on there. So yeah, absolutely no idea. The closest I've got to planning my reading for next year is like thinking of the kind of things I want to put in my new reading journal and like the kind of pages I'm going to set up in there. So those are my answers to the end of the year book tag. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.